Hi, I'm Carrie Cheadle, and I'm bringing you another Mental Skills Minute during the Tour de France 2011. This time we're going to talk about climbing. So this is for all those mountain stages out there. You see these guys doing these amazing, epic, unbelievable climbs. And this is for all of you guys out there that are quote-unquote not climbers, right? I hear this a lot. I'm not a climber. So the first thing, so what we're going to talk about, this topic is about how can I help improve my climbing when we're talking about sort of mental skills training and the mental skills that go into having a successful climb. So the first thing is stop saying that you're not a climber, right? So maybe you're not as fast as some of the other guys out there, but that whole idea of I'm not a climber kind of sets you up to every time you see a climb, you're filled with dread, right? So that's the first thing. No more saying I'm not a climber. But another tip is the way our brain and our body is hardwired. We're hardwired to regulate our effort when it comes to exercise. So, and the way that's wired, we're wired to prevent catastrophe, basically. So, one important thing to know when it comes to climbing is here's an example of how this works. So, say you're out on a big climb, you're feeling amazing, you see the top of the climb, you get to the top, and all of a sudden you see that it goes about another mile up, right? And in that moment, you're just filled with dread. And suddenly it feels so much more painful in your legs because in your mind you regulated your effort to where you thought the expectation of where that climb was, right? And so when it went further than that, your brain and body got that message of, whoa, I don't know, I didn't expect this next part of the climb. I was only prepared for this part. So the first part when it comes to being mentally prepared for a climb is know the climb. So if you know exactly what the climb is and exactly what kind of effort you're going to put out, you're not going to get that kind of surprise and have your body and brain automatically slow down to regulate that effort. So that's one piece. So another piece you may have experienced is when you're out on a climb, you could be feeling amazing, having the best climb of your life. All of a sudden you get passed by some guy that looks like they're barely breathing, right? And in that moment, boom, your confidence drops. So don't worry about what anyone else is doing. And I guarantee it might look like that guy's not breathing, but he's just putting his game face on, right? He's working just as hard as you. But don't worry about what anyone else is doing on that climb. So that's the next piece is don't worry about anyone else. Don't let that shake your confidence getting past. You'll catch them on the downhill. So just stay in the moment. What do I need to do right now in order to get through this part of the climb? So that's another tip is you can break up the climb into segments. So don't focus on how in the world am I going to get to the top of this thing. Focus on how am I going to get to that next tree? How am I going to get to that next corner? Just stay in the moment and regulate that effort during that amount of time. So the other piece with that is to know where your focus is going to be. So when you're putting out that kind of big effort, you can't not tune into the pain that you're feeling, right? Your legs are burning, you're working hard. So one of the most successful sort of techniques for dealing with your focus in that moment is to have some sort of repetitive mantra. So that could be counting your pedal strokes, right? So you just pick a number and count that amount of strokes. It doesn't have to be counting from 1 all the way to how many pedal strokes it takes. It could be just counting repetitively 1, 2, 3, 4. Or picking some kind of cue that's your repetitive mantra that you're going to say to yourself. It could be smooth, it could be pedal, it could be strong, whatever it is that is just repetitive and that's all you're focusing on is repeating that and moving your body. So another piece that sometimes cyclists like to use is using imagery. So you can also use some kind of imagery. I'll have cyclists that they'll imagine that their body is a machine and their legs are pistons and they're just moving up the climb. So play with different kinds of imagery and see what gets you up that climb. If all else fails, here's a foolproof. This one, it works brilliantly. You're not going to believe me, but you got to try this out. So the next time you're about to approach a climb, just say the exact opposite of what you're feeling. So you get to the bottom of that climb and you're like, sweet, I was so hoping there would be another climb, right? So just say the exact opposite of what you're feeling. What it does is it provides a little levity because it's not true, right? There's no one out there going, man, I wish every stage was a mountain stage. That would be fantastic. So it provides a little levity. It shifts your emotional state in that moment and helps you relax, right? You don't want to be burning your matches, don't burn your matches being tense and upset about the climb that's coming up. You want to conserve that energy, right? So relax about the climb. So if every time the climb comes around, you're filled with dread, you're burning some matches. So think about where does my focus need to be so I'm not burning those matches. Come up with whatever it is you're going to use. Your imagery, your mantra, some kind of repetitive cue. Know what that climb is so you know what to expect. And the next climb, I guarantee if you work on that stuff, you're going to have a much better climb. All right, thanks for listening to this Mental Skills Minute, and we'll come back at you with another one in a couple weeks.